Hello everyone, JohnJoker12 back here again with another video. Now I'm here to give a specific different type of video today. Once again, it's obviously my personal thoughts on something. Obviously I'm giving you a Dragon Ball Z topic. And I'm sorry if I'm talking fast, but I'm gonna have to get this video quicked up because I've done this, this is my third attempt making this topic, so let's just try to get at it. So recently I made a video that giving my personal thoughts on the possible future and current state of a live-action Dragon Ball Z movie. And I had gotten a recent comment on it of a YouTuber named Nahum Dyer. Once again, I'm sorry for if I'm mispronouncing your name, sir. But basically, this YouTuber agreed with my thoughts, and he was giving me his thoughts on who should work on it and how do you reboot it and whatnot. And I agreed with him, and he named two companies that were currently making fan-made versions of Dragon Ball Z live-action films. And one of them I already heard of, which was K&K Productions, and they did obviously the Saiyan Saga, and currently working on the Frieza Saga. And that's all great and stuff, and I heard of that, but I didn't hear of Robot Underdog. And basically what they're doing is essentially the same thing that K&K did, except they're doing the Trunks Saga, and they're working on the Trunks arc and Android's arc. So, seeing as how I watched that right after hearing about this whole thing, I decided to make this video giving my personal thoughts on not only them and K&K, but giving my overall thoughts on everything that's been going on. Seeing as how I've been in the real mood to make this type of video, I decided just to put my thoughts right out there. And first off, when I watch their stuff, Robot Underdog, first thing that I think of is, God, this thing has the same mistakes that K&K has. And once again, for the 100th time, I'm not trying to bash them, nor am I trying to bash K&K, and nor am I trying to bash any YouTubers or fans of their work. Hell, I'm a fan, I love their work, but I can see the flaws that they're making and the mistakes that they continue to make. And I'm trying to just put that out there, that even though what they're doing is great, and I appreciate that, seeing as how I'm a huge DBZ fan and I'm a big believer in a live-action movie, I see the flaws. So, essentially, this video is my 5 ways on how to make a Dragon Ball Z live-action movie work. And I've been thinking over it over and over and over on how to make it work. There's plenty of different ways to approach a project from a filmmaker's point of view and a writer's point of view. But there's always 5 essential ways to do something, and I decided to give my 5 essential ways on how to make it work. And let's just get right off it, and, well, actually, let's get on it and fucking go to number 5. I'm going to go from 5 up to down to number 1. Number 5, death. In the Dragon Ball universe, death pretty much becomes obsolete. It's kind of like power levels, essentially, where it's just an obsolete factor that characters don't really use anymore. And death is essentially like that. I think personally, as a fan, if I'm going to go watch this movie, I personally want death to be meaningful. I want it to mean something. Essentially, post Frieza Saga, death doesn't really mean anything. The Dragon Balls is a big part of the universe, but when they start using it too much and just like, oh, well, death doesn't mean anything. Oh, he died. Oh, what? I just get the Dragon Balls. Like an hour from now, he'll be back. And that happens a lot. And by the end of the Buu Saga, that's essentially what happens. Death becomes meaningless. And when I want to watch this new franchise, I personally would want the characters, specifically Goku, and the entire continuing storyline to have consequences. And I want the characters to learn from their consequences, which is death, essentially. The Saiyan Saga is filled with death. I mean, pretty much every main character dies in it, even Goku. So death is a big factor, and I want it to mean something. When someone's gonna die, I want not only the characters in the movie to feel something, but me as a fan and as a viewer, I want to be like, oh God, that really brought me to pretty much tears and goosebumps when I watched that, and I personally want to see that happen. But let's move off number 5. Let's go to number 4, which is design. When it comes to adapting anime to live action form, there comes a lot of problems, and a lot of big deal is the look of the characters. Dragon Ball Z is completely filled with lots of over exaggerated characters, mostly due to their hairstyles and their outfits, because normal people don't wear the and don't look like that. So obviously there's a big problem there right off the bat. As we all know, there's scenes. There's a lot of scenes. There's hair scenes, there's tattoo scenes, there's body scenes, there's like body mutation scenes. There's a lot of scenes out there. So I'm pretty sure having characters that have hairstyles that are like Goku's and like Vegeta's and Yamcha's and whatever is not really that out of the norm to adapt. I'm just saying that if we were able to do that realistically, and once again, I use that lightly because obviously it's an anime, it can't be done realistically, but obviously I hope everyone understands when I'm using it. I mean, in a good way, not in a bad way. The hairstyles is obviously a big thing that I'm pretty sure could be done to the point where I can be like, oh yeah, that is Goku. Even though the hair's a little different, that is Goku. I can see it. And the same thing goes to their clothing. Obviously, the characters wear their gis pretty much majority of the series, especially Goku. So obviously, there's going to have to be a point where they're changing. So with every stage, it's good to add, but also I think it's good to stay true to the initial design of the characters, but just make sure that they have accessories that make sense. You know, like Captain America, the only accessory that actually matters is his shield. But they continue to add on to his pieces, which is essentially just, you know, he's practically wearing the American flag. That's what you can do with Goku. You know, you add pieces, but essentially stay true to the blue and the orange. Always got to stay true to that. But let's move off of that and go to number 3, which has to go down to effects. When I watch these fan fiction stuff on YouTube or on the internet, the number one thing I say to myself is when I see this, God, that looks so Photoshoppy. It's just so Photoshoppy. And once again, I'm not trying to bash them. I'm pretty sure they work hard as fuck to try and accomplish these things. But, god damn, when these companies continue to do these type of effects, they fail so much because it just continues to look like Photoshop. I mean, like, if I could do the effect that they're essentially doing on screen, then you failed right there, you know? And I want, if you were able to make a live action version with a big budget, I want it to look great. I mean, this is the first time we're ever going to be able to see a good Kamehameha wave happen in real life. I want it to look like the Kamehameha wave. It has to look epic and big. And obviously there's a fine line when you're adapting the anime / manga. So there's a lot of, you know, drafting and changing. But essentially you have to stay true because the ki blasts in the manga and the anime are organic. They're very, very organic. And you have to make it look true to the point where that's the effect. Obviously there's a big limit to how you can change it. Obviously, you don't want it to be like all Avatar The Last Airbender, where it's all like fucking stupid, smoky looking shit coming out of your hands. You know, it has to look fucking like if a person came in contact with that, you're gonna die immediately. So, that's also a big thing. Same thing with the flying. It looks too hand-wire-ish. Way too green screeny. I mean, like, just look at the Superman movies. That's a good example. Or look at the Marvel movies. When a character's flying, it looks like that's how they're flying. And seeing as how flying is a big part in Dragon Ball, seeing as how it's their main mode of transportation most of the time, you have to make it look amazing to the point where it's like, I want to fly with them, you know? That's the main goal when you're showing it to a fan / viewer. But let's move off of that and go to number 2, which has to go down to location. Location's a big thing when it comes to filmmaking, and when it comes to the Dragon Ball universe, location's also a really big thing. As we all know, the world of Dragon Ball, they're always moving at a constant rate, you know? They're always at one point across the universe, then they're across the planet, and they're across the other world, you know, practically. They're going all over the place at like a super speed. So obviously there's a humongous landscape that you have to cover. And the biggest problem that Dragon Ball Evolution has, and a lot of fan fiction has, is that they don't go there. You know, if you're going to be in the city and film there, you got to film there. If you're going to go to the Rocky Mountains, you got to film there. If they're going to the Antarctica, you got to film there. If you're going to space, obviously that's where, once again, effects comes in, where you have to accomplish that amazing, pull off some type of gravity type shit. Okay, so you obviously, when location comes to the story and the storyline and the universe, you have to accomplish something amazing, you know? I mean, like the same thing with the Michael Bay Transformers franchise. You know, when he wants something done, it's gonna get done. You know, it's not like, oh, we need an explosion. Oh, well, let's just do that on a soundstage and do that on a computer. No, we're going to fucking Chicago or New York and we're gonna blow up someone's house now. I want explosions now. That's how it's going down. You have to do that. And once again, that also conflicts with the effects side of my debate in over here, but everything comes hand in hand, and you have to make sure that your location works for you. There's always a special gem, and the location helps that because it shows that this is where we film. This is the perfect spot. But let's move off of that and go right down to number one, and it all comes down to story. Story is everything. And obviously, with everything else that I mentioned and everything else that goes to filmmaking, there's always a fine line when you're adapting a story to stay faithful, but at the same time be original. The biggest problem I have with watching these fan fiction stuff is that they're being more faithful, but being less original. I know there's a fine line, and I know Dragon Ball Evolution pissed off a lot of people because they pretty much did whatever they wanted and stayed unfaithful to the source material. But there's always room for originality. You know, there's a humongous space there. You know, and what do you can just have like just a black spot and just forget about it? No, you have to put some original content right there in your face where it fits perfectly. And I think there's lots of room in Dragon Ball for that. I mean, why not? I mean, like, if Marvel could do it and DC can do it, why can't anime do it? You know, why can't there be an anime Avengers or an anime Man of Steel? There has to be. And a lot of that has to do with originality. When you watch Man of Steel or the Dark Knight trilogy, there's a lot of originality, but it fits so good to the point where you can love it. The Marvel franchise sticks with the fantasy, but puts enough originality there to the point where it's like, it's amazing. It's the best. And I think there's a perfect way to do that, the same way with the Dragon Ball Z franchise. I just personally think if you're a filmmaker and you're going to work on this project and you're going to do it correctly, always have the source material with you. Grab the manga, grab the books, have it close right by your side. Along with the script and along with the screenplay, always have it with you, because then you can see that your story/script is paralleling with the manga, and it's a perfect cross between the two. You know, you always have to have that perfect cross where it's like, that's essentially what we're going for, but done in a different way to the point where it surprises fans, but also meets their expectations and possibly even surpassing them, you know? And there's always a perfect way to do that. But guys, I'm going to have to cut this really short because I've been rambling for so long. I really hoped I could have gone more in depth with this, but you know. But essentially, that was my 5 ways on how to make a Dragon Ball Z movie work. A live action Dragon Ball Z movie work. Obviously, there's definitely different ways to approach the project. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of people who may not agree with me. This is my personal thoughts, people. So, obviously, if you feel different, feel free to comment. And once again, I'm not trying to bash any of the people or companies or production teams that I mentioned. I'm not trying to bash them. I'm just trying to, like, give some input, some productive input, you know. And that's essentially all I'm trying to do. So, I hope you guys enjoyed, and this has been John Trigger 12, and once again, I hope there's one day a Dragon Ball Z movie that surpasses expectations and creates a whole new franchise. Thanks for watching.